covering sports for 30 years. It's one thing for an exhibition here, there, whatever, but you can't continue to be allowed to build a career without getting into the ring with fighters. And if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon.
Does ultimately boxing get damaged?
Well, I think so. But I think boxing damages itself left, right and centre. But I think the reputability and the credibility of some of these boxing sanctioning bodies is poor anyway.
Nobody can knock him for this. This is now business. This is business. For Jake Paul, absolutely crazy. Jake Paul is a domestic level professional fighter here in the US.
Stephen A. Smith lashes out at the announcement, saying Jake Paul has never approached boxing with the seriousness the sport demands. He argues that Paul's career has been built on exhibitions and opponents who were not real tests, including retired fighters and people far past their competitive years. According to Smith, this pattern disrespects the sport, and the proposed matchup with Anthony Joshua only highlights how badly boxing is being treated.
He can't continue to get away with stepping into the ring against strikers for the UFC, basketball players, unknown boxers.
Simon Jordan expresses serious concern over the Anthony Joshua vs. Jake Paul matchup, arguing that it highlights major issues within modern boxing. He believes business interests have overtaken the sport's integrity, with fighters and promoters prioritizing publicity and paydays over genuine competition. Jordan warns that when boxing becomes more about spectacle than skill, it risks losing the respect it has earned over decades and sets dangerous precedents for young fighters and the broader perception of the sport. He further stresses that this fight exemplifies a troubling trend in which financial incentives outweigh athletic challenge, claiming the event is driven by headlines, social media engagement, and ticket sales rather than real sporting merit. According to Jordan, using a superstar like Anthony Joshua to elevate someone who has not faced serious opposition undermines professional boxing's credibility, turning a championship-level athlete into a prop in a commercialized event and diminishing the accomplishments of those truly dedicated to the sport.
This, to me, is everything that's wrong with boxing. It's a money play, nothing wrong. I don't begrudge Anthony Joshua getting 50 million quid for an easy night's work. That's fantastic returns. Most people would take it. But from the boxing world, Jake Paul is now a professional fighter. Whether we categorise him as a YouTuber or not, he's licensed to fight, which means that the governing body should be suggesting that this is not a fight that possibly they should be looking to sanction.
Yeah.
But they will, because the sanctioning fees will be enormous. Anthony Joshua will not lose his legacy like some people are suggesting, because no one will remember it in 2 or 3 years' time. If he embarrasses himself in there, they'll remember it. If he goes in and knocks him out in 30 seconds flat, or turns it into a little bit more of a sort of Jake LaMotta raging bull, holding him up for a few rounds and then knocking him out, then people will forgive it. He'll get a big bag of money, which most people in the world would take, and move on. And then we'll see if he fights anybody meaningful in the year. I mean, it is like sport has become. And what I got my head around on Saturday night was the entertainment value of Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. The fighting of itself, I could be all pious about it, but the entertainment industry is so prevalent in sport now. This is entertainment. This is going to have hundreds of millions of people watching it. Of course. And Anthony Joshua gets paid, and Jake Paul hopefully gets flattened.
Simon, I know the money's there, but does ultimately boxing get damaged?
Well, I think so. But I think boxing damages itself left, right and centre. But I think the reputability and the credibility of some of these boxing sanctioning bodies is poor anyway. But I think it does get damaged.
Even if it's an exhibition fight, which it might well be.
Well, then what's the jeopardy in that? If it's an exhibition fight, which it shouldn't be, if it's a proper fight, then Jake Paul is going to get demolished.
Johnny Nelson weighs in, describing the matchup as absolutely crazy and genuinely risky, emphasizing that this is not a typical crossover fight but a real contest with significant stakes and physical danger. He admires Jake Paul's bravery yet questions the wisdom of stepping into the ring with a proven heavyweight champion, noting that the shock factor comes from the seriousness of the fight itself. This is not an exhibition, and the consequences of a misstep are real, capturing the tension between curiosity, excitement, and concern within the boxing community. Nelson also reflects on Jake Paul's unique trajectory as a competitor, acknowledging his skill and confidence in previous bouts but stressing that none of his past opponents were on Joshua's level. He sees Paul's courage as remarkable, yet simultaneously alarming given the inherent danger of facing a world-class heavyweight.
Anthony Joshua's desire to be in the history books, to be a 3-time heavyweight champion of the world. To me, it shows me his desire. Pick up 50 million along the way. Nobody can knock him for this. This is now business. This is business. For Jake Paul, absolutely crazy. Jake Paul is a domestic level professional fighter here in the UK. Would he win a British title? No, I don't think so. So now they're putting this domestic level fighter in with a former heavyweight 2-time champion of the world. The weight is 245. So I think the last time Anthony Joshua weighed around that, it was when he boxed Usyk. That means he's got to be fight fit on point, because his last fight he was 18 stone. I think it was 254 against Danny Dubois. So now he basically saying you've got to get yourself in position, get yourself fit, and get yourself ready for fight. It's not tiddlywinks. This is a fight. It's not a push and a pull, you know. So as long as it's not a push and a pull, and don't put me down and don't touch me in the build up to this fight. You know, remember when McGregor and Mayweather, they had this little side of don't touch me in the build up to this. If this is a real legitimate fight, Jake Paul is absolutely crazy. If not crazy, he's super brave, and it'll be interesting to see.
Well, what do you think? Yeah, because you said that before when we spoke about it being a proper fight or not. And Eddie Hearn and Paul's promoter, Nakisa Badarin, have both said in the last couple of days it will be a proper fight. And now you've heard the details. 8 rounds, 3 minutes a round, 10-ounce gloves. Do you believe it when they say that? It's going to be a proper fight?
I do believe it because AJ is involved. And I think AJ would struggle to he's going to take enough flack over this, but again, it's money talk. So I think AJ will struggle because it's an Owen situation. If he goes in there, Jake Paul lasts the distance. What's he tell you about AJ? Apart from he's just earned an extra 15 million quid. If he goes there and struggles with Jake Paul, then what's he say about AJ? Your heydays are well and truly over. If he goes in there and knocks him out, then I'll say that's to be expected. So the glory, there's probably not much glory in it, apart from the haters of Jake Paul to say, right, I've got rid of this kid. I think it's very brave of Jake Paul. So now the problem child has got to believe this fight's actually...
Tony Jeff offers a pragmatic view, noting that anything can happen in boxing and emphasizing that training, preparation, and mindset can sometimes level the playing field even when there is a clear difference in experience or age. He points out that Jake is younger than Joshua, which could give him an advantage in stamina and recovery, though he admits Paul is not yet at Joshua's technical level. Still, Jeff acknowledges that Jake has improved significantly and that with the right strategy and dedication, unexpected outcomes remain possible, reflecting the sport's unpredictable nature. He also highlights Paul's strong work ethic, remarking that the fighter has shown remarkable dedication in preparing for higher-level opponents. While Paul's skill does not match Joshua's, Jeff stresses that his commitment to training and learning cannot be ignored, suggesting the gap between them is narrower than critics claim. This perspective adds nuance to the debate, recognizing Paul's progress while remaining realistic about the immense challenge he faces.
Where Anthony Joshua, on the other hand, is, but I'm not going to say he's coming into his prime because he had some great wins earlier on in his career before he lost to Usyk twice. And by the way, when he did lose to Usyk, the last one was a split decision. It was a pretty close fight. So now this fight is matched, and I just want to look at the tail of the tape. Now, looking at the age difference, we've got 28 years old compared to 36 years old. So I guess the advantage there goes a little bit towards Jake Paul. 28-year-old is better than a 36-year-old. But that being said, we've got talking about experience and everything else. What comes with being 36 years old at Anthony Joshua's level. And then, like I mentioned, the heavyweights kind of seem to prime a little bit older. They'll come down to the height and the weight. This is the big one. 6'1" versus 6'6". 200 pound versus 252 pound. We got a 252 pounder in Anthony Joshua. The reach advantage is a lot, which we would expect. Amateur fights, we can see that Jake's only had one, where AJ's had 43, but 43 of them are included at the highest level, Olympic level. And yes, he won the Olympic bloody gold medal, if I don't need to remind you. Then the pro record, Jake Paul has had 13 fights, lost 1. AJ has had 28 fights and he's lost 4 with 25 KOs. And the one person that Jake Paul lost to was Tommy Fury. Now, can we compare Tommy Fury with Anthony Joshua? Not at all. It's like night and day. So now I'm going to talk about the rules of this fight, and I'll give you my prediction, which is going to shock a lot of people after this. So, what are the rules? The bout will take place at a heavyweight, obviously. It's going to be 8 3-minute rounds. You might think, well, that's better for Jake.
Chael Sonnen comments that Jake Paul's critics will finally witness the level of competition he faces when stepping into the ring with a legitimate professional, noting that the matchup will reveal whether Paul's past success was inflated by carefully chosen opponents or if he truly belongs in serious competitive boxing. He believes the fight will serve as a reality check, offering clarity to fans, pundits, and the sport as a whole, and frames the event as a pivotal moment for assessing both the legitimacy of Paul's career and the broader perception of crossover boxing. Sonnen elaborates that this matchup is a significant test not only for Jake Paul but for public perception of the sport, stressing that facing a world-class heavyweight will subject Paul to scrutiny from experienced analysts and seasoned fighters. This attention, he argues, will expose whether Paul's previous victories were a product of genuine skill or simply the lower caliber of past opponents. Sonnen suggests that such scrutiny will ultimately benefit boxing by reinforcing standards and expectations for those claiming professional credibility, ensuring debates are grounded in real performance rather than marketing narratives.
For Jake Paul to do this as well as for Joshua. You know, this isn't Joshua's first time doing a spoof fight. He fought Francis. That was a spoof fight. Francis had never won boxing before, but we understood he has fought before. It was one of those things where when you got through it, like coming into the front side, I'm sure Anthony Joshua trained plenty hard for it. But coming out the back, he probably realized I didn't need to train for that at all. That was fun. That was a good time. I got to hear him call my names. I got to go out there. I got to be light on my feet. I got to lay on these combinations and then cut an interview and pump my hands over my shoulders like I accomplished something. What dreams are made of. And so Joshua did one of those fights. It was with Francis, and this is a completely different kind of that type of fight, but it's still that fight nonetheless. Jake Paul has abilities to win this fight. A lot of them involved moral victories. A lot of them involved getting out of the first round. And a lot of them would involve getting out of the first 2 rounds and haven't been knocked down yet. Want to be getting out of the 3rd round, you've only been on the canvas once, and you got up to your feet, you shook it off, and you're ready to keep going. Like, these things are all victories, but the fight that it's going to happen, I think it's a big deal for Jake Paul. I think it's a big deal for everybody involved. I think it's a big deal that Francis looks at that fight and realizes, oh, these things make sense. These things that make dollars, they make sense. That's his business. This was his opportunity that he missed out on. And now Joshua's going to have a lot of fun. And overall, I see the fight being one-sided. And people keep saying, well, slow down. Wait till you hear what all of the rules under exhibition clause mean. As long as they're throwing punches at one another.
Dan Rafael offers a perspective focused on Jake Paul's recent improvements, noting that Paul has grown as a fighter since his bout with Tommy Fury, showing enhanced technique, stamina, and tactical understanding. However, he stresses that despite this progress, Paul remains well below Anthony Joshua's elite level, underscoring the substantial gap between a developing professional and a seasoned heavyweight champion. Rafael balances recognition of Paul's hard work with a realistic assessment of the challenge ahead, highlighting the long journey required to reach world-class competence. He further explains that this fight will likely reveal both strengths and weaknesses in Paul's approach, emphasizing that experience against top-tier heavyweights cannot be simulated through training alone. The bout will test not only Paul's physical capacity but also his decision-making under pressure, timing, and ability to adapt mid-fight. Rafael's comments remind audiences that boxing is more than athleticism, it is strategy, mental resilience, and precise execution, qualities Joshua has honed over years that Paul has yet to fully acquire.
Those are so-called real fighters, but not for a long, long time. Chavez is a decade or so past when he was best, and Tyson had been retired 19 years and hadn't been, even when he was still an active fighter, hadn't been at his best over the last decade of his career. So they were guys with big names, but not threats. And the other fighters that he's faced have been a collection of either non-combat athletes, MMA fighters who've decided to come into boxing or had very limited experience in boxing. And then, a couple of guys in boxing that didn't have a lot of experience who were boxers, but had been off, for a long time. A couple of guys you never heard of before he fought those guys, and those guys you'll never hear of again. Of course, the fight against Tommy Fury, which I know he lost, but it was like a split decision, as my recollection says, and it was awfully close. And for my perspective is, whatever you think about it, Jake Paul certainly has gotten better since he fought Tommy Fury. He's certainly gotten better over the last number of fights. Now, is he at an elite world-class level? Probably not yet. He may never get to that level, but so you got to give him props. He's taken on a guy that I spend part of my morning talking to different boxing matchmakers, people I've known for decades in this business who have vast experience of building fighters and moving fighters and developing them. And they know a lot better than you or me what they're looking at. And to a person, they were like, they don't understand why Jake took this fight because they think it's, one person used the word of decapitation. So he's going to be a monstrous underdog against a massive puncher. But they're all getting.
Carl Froch shares his perspective on the stakes involved in this matchup, highlighting its significance for both competitors. He notes that Joshua's career and legacy are at a stage where even one misstep could draw intense scrutiny, while Jake Paul's rising profile depends on proving he can handle authentic professional challenges. Froch stresses that the fight represents a crossroads, a test of Joshua's consistency and a platform for Paul to demonstrate legitimacy. His insight underscores the intersection of risk, reward, and reputation in modern boxing, framing the contest as consequential for all involved.
Fake Paul is not a step in the direction of becoming world champion again. There's many people who could box. He's not going to make that kind of money. So let's just be honest with anybody else. So let's just be straight up honest about it. He's doing it all for the money. It's all about the money. I did say a year ago when he got splattered by Daniel Dubois that he's finished in boxing, he needs to retire. That's just my opinion, that's just my truth. I think he's done in heavyweight boxing at an elite competitive level. So that makes sense. I've been vindicated. He's now fighting Fake Paul in what will be a massive mismatch. If this is correct and it's 10-ounce gloves in a professional boxing rules, 8 3-minute rounds, it's not going to go 2 rounds, is it? It shouldn't do. It shouldn't last a round. But we're going to have to wait and see, aren't we? It's hard to get your head around. It's hard to know what to say about this. AJ's obviously excited about it, about making some serious bunts. And Jake Paul's telling us that he's going to shut all the haters up by jumping in there with AJ. So what is actually going off? We're not going to know, are we, until the fight actually, till the first bell goes. We're not going to know what's actually behind all this. And we can't start throwing accusations of any sort of skullduggery going off because we've got to take it at face value. It's not an exhibition, so nothing's pre-scripted. This is a professional boxing match that you can make bets on. So it's got to be a real fight. And if AJ goes in there with them little 10-ounce gloves on and throws the Ngannou 1-2 down the middle, I'm talking about the one that rendered Ngannou unconscious and almost snapped his leg. And Ngannou is a decent fighter in the cage. He's a good MMA fighter, and you saw him. He took Tyson Fury. What did it take him? 8, 9? Was it 10 rounds? Can't remember how long it was, but he took him the distance and lost a close decision. So he's quite capable. But AJ's a big punching heavyweight, and
Ariel Helwani adds that concerns over Joshua's legacy being tarnished are misplaced, arguing that securing a fight of this magnitude is part of a professional athlete's business decisions and does not inherently reflect negatively on him. Helwani emphasizes that paydays and visibility are legitimate aspects of boxing, and that a well-managed fight can serve both commercial and sporting interests. Participating in high-profile bouts against popular or unconventional opponents, he notes, is a standard part of a modern boxing career, reflecting the interplay between sport and business rather than undermining legacy. He further explains that Joshua's participation demonstrates adaptability and professional judgment, highlighting that choosing strategic, widely publicized matchups does not diminish his accomplishments but instead allows him to capitalize on his skill while reaching broader audiences. Helwani stresses that the focus should remain on how the fight is executed, not merely who the opponent is.
That would ultimately go, though. What's your level of interest, Mr. Connor Burks? What do you think about this? How do you think people will receive this?
Mr. Connor Burks, yeah, I am very interested in it. I'm already seeing the tweets and Instagram posts online that people definitely want to see this fight happen if Jake Paul is going to fight anyone. I can't imagine a fight that would garner more interest. It's a legitimate boxer in Anthony Joshua who has massive wins on his resume. He's much bigger than Jake Paul. He is a global superstar, and also he's going to be a massive favorite in it. To me, it just makes sense from a standpoint of if you're Jake Paul and you somehow pull this off and you beat Anthony Joshua, you silence all the doubters out there. You beat a guy in Anthony Joshua that you're not supposed to beat. And then if you're someone that doesn't like Jake Paul, you want to tune in to see him get knocked out, you put it on Netflix. To me, it makes a ton of sense from a visibility standpoint, from getting the most eyes on it. Obviously, you're never going to top the Tyson thing just because of who Mike Tyson is, but right now, especially on short notice,